Welcome to Murphy Entertainment Studio. Today in the studio I have Matt Richardson, and he was a paramedic for 20 years. Matt, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
I'd like to go ahead and start with our first question.
Okay.
What inspired you to become a paramedic?
I was actually in high school, and I was driving around with a buddy of mine, and we were going around trying to raise money for, I was in theater in college, or in high school and college, but at that time in high school, and we're trying to raise money.
Mm-hmm.
And he had brought up the idea that he was going to run by the fire station to apply to be a fireman, which I'd never even considered before.
Mm-hmm.
But while he was there, I was just out in his truck sitting there thinking, I thought, hey, it'd be kind of cool to be a fireman.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd never even thought about it before. One thing leads to another, and I eventually go and I applied, but they said you had to be go to the fire academy and all that. And so I ended up doing that, became a fireman. And I worked on, first fire department was Branson, Missouri. Then the next one was Tahlequah, Oklahoma. And when I was on the Tahlequah department, I was working a lot of car wrecks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'd get these people out of the vehicles, cut them out of the cars, but then we just load them onto an ambulance and they'd work on them for a while. And I was like, that'd be really neat to know what they were doing.
Yeah.
And so I decided to become a EMT, then later on a paramedic.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
And you did that for 20 years.
Yeah, I'm actually still certified as a paramedic, but I don't work as one anymore.
Okay.
Actually, the crazy thing was, right after this pandemic started, I don't know how they got my number,
Mm-hmm.
but I got a phone call from the state of Tennessee asking me
really?
if I wanted to come work as a paramedic
And help out?
And help out. And I've been away from it for quite a while, so that's not really my thing. I'm retired from that, so yeah, that was kind of odd to get a phone call if someone wanted me to come work as a paramedic.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Be like, well, I appreciate it, but I'll have to think about it for a little bit.
I'll have to think about it, yeah.
How do you believe that COVID-19 would have impacted your job when you were a paramedic?
In that line of work, because you never know what you're walking into, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And for the majority of my career, I actually worked in an area that was kind of a high tuberculosis area,
Mm-hmm.
which is, highly contagious from breathing and respiratory. So it's not something that would have been totally out of, totally off the wall for us to be dealing with something like this.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, someone says, or if it's thought that they might have tuberculosis or the virus now, you would immediately put a mask on them. That way they're not breathing that stuff on you. And of course you're supposed to, if you know they're positive already, then
Mm-hmm.
you alert the hospital and they put them in isolation rooms with negative ventilation and all that stuff. So that was something that a lot of hospitals are already set up for the respiratory stuff. Now, and I'm kind of a germaphobe anyway, whenever it comes to touching things.
Oh yeah, me too.
So,
me too.
I haven't changed the way I do things very much,
Mm-hmm.
just mainly because I rarely am not thinking of germs.
Yeah.
So, now I think they're making them all wear masks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But they always have gloves on anyway. Every time you get in the ambulance, you put gloves on.
Sure.
You're constantly, in fact, whenever you go to get certified, you automatically fail your certification tests, whether you're a basic, intermediate, paramedic. You automatically fail if you don't start every single scenario that you're going into
Mm-hmm.
with BSI, which is now they call it PPE. But if you don't verbalize it, you have on all your equipment and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And you go through a lot of scenarios. And if
Oh,
you
yeah.
miss it once, you automatically fail. So
Oh, yeah. Wow.
they really drill that into you.
Yeah. Is a test, that'd be pretty hard to pass, or?
It depends. You have written tests and you have practical tests. Whenever I was becoming an EMT basic, it's the tests were fairly involved, but I wasn't too nervous about them. Once you become an intermediate or advanced EMT, it gets a little more invasive as far as having to memorize stuff. Whenever I became a paramedic, the the tests are a lot more extensive. You have to memorize a lot of cardiology. They'll show you different cards to say this is the rhythm your patient's heart is in.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do about it? And there's checklists that you have to make sure I'm doing this. It doesn't matter the medications you give. It doesn't matter if you identify the rhythm correctly, because if you miss that very first step of I've got my gloves on, doesn't matter if you got the rest of it correct. You've automatically failed.
Wow. So the memorization would
it's
be
insane. You have to memorize every single step in order on any type of scenario.
Uh-huh.
But it always starts with you got your gloves on. Now, of course, now it's a mask and everything.
And the full gear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say would be the best aspects of your job? You know, kind of like the positive, and then also on the second part of that question, what did you feel were the negative aspects?
I really enjoyed. There's certain calls you love going on. The ones where you can see an immediate result of helping.
Mm-hmm.
Those are great. And I always said my favorite calls to go on were diabetic calls, to where someone's blood sugar's too low.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you show up on scene and their blood sugar's 20, 30, 40, whatever, you know immediately what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I just start an IV, give them D50, and then it pushes their blood sugar up.
Mm-hmm.
But that's an immediate thing, to where the families doesn't know what's going on. The person's passed out. You check the blood sugar, you can give them that, and
their levels are too low or whatever.
yeah,
and you're able
then
to
you raise
stabilize them.
You raise their blood sugar, and now they wake up, everything's fine, family thinks you're a hero.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the easy ones. And
yeah.
The negative aspects, obviously, is the emotional toll it takes, not only on me, but on my family.
Mm-hmm.
My family paid the price for being emotionally distant for so long, because it's hard to turn that switch on and off from going from work to home to work to home to work to home.
Sure.
Because you're seeing the worst of humanity, and then you're going right back to your family, and you can't just go from emotion to emotion. It's
wow.
very difficult.
I can't even imagine, Matt. Yeah, that would be very tough. But
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think that you did a lot of good when you did that. I mean, there's a lot of people that you and your team helped, and I know that for everybody that you helped that's watching this, that they really appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, that's definitely got to be very tough, though. I mean, the toll you're talking about.
Well, yeah, and a lot of times, depending on the type of call you go on, there's certain times you get awards, or you get, recognized for something you've done,
Mm-hmm.
and that's always nice. But what I always thought was the greatest thing that would happen to me, anytime this would happen to me, it would make you feel good and kind of make you, energize you. And again, is if you save someone, if they're, truly gone, and you did everything just right, and you brought them back. And, it happened, a few times throughout my career, to where they'd come to the fire station, they'd come and see me.
Mm-hmm.
And this person that I initially, the first time I met them, they were dead.
Yeah.
And then, a month or two later, they're coming in, they're walking through the door, they're shaking my hand.
Yeah, and they're doing great then. Yeah.
And when it's a kid, it's amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, when you can do that, it kind of energizes you again. It makes up for all the 3 a.m., 4 a.m.
It makes up for the bad parts of the job, huh?
Yeah, there's a few of those, but yeah, that's what I always enjoyed.
Okay, great. What advice would you give to newcomers that are going into the medical field that are considering becoming a paramedic? What would you say to that person?
I would say start slow.
Mm-hmm.
Realize that this is going to be a big part of your life. That it does take a very big emotional toll, so you have to be prepared for that. Mm-hmm. But if you start slow and you kind of ease yourself into it, that would help. And
baby steps.
Very small baby steps.
Yeah.
Because if you try and jump in full force, then people either they don't realize what they're getting into, or they'll get burned out.
Mm-hmm.
And I've definitely talked to people who've done it a while
Okay.
to get their true advice on, because the things that you think you're going to do, you know, you think you're going to be saving lives every day, and you think you can be doing this. That's great, but you know, those are few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
It does happen, but it's all the stuff in between those calls that really wear on you.
Sure.
So and that's why I say go slow, because so you can actually see what the job is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's great advice, Matt. And to wrap it up, we really appreciate you coming on the channel today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think that our viewers will have learned a lot, and we certainly appreciate your time. And thank you for everything that you do, and we appreciate it. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Yep.
you.
Yep. All right, guys. This is Mike out. See you next time.